This video is created especially to help those soon-to-be acreage owners and is part of my Acreage property YouTube playlist. In this video, I'm going to be covering how do you know if a property has a propane tank, what is special at the time of closing when purchasing a property with a propane tank, and what to expect when filling a propane tank. Hi, my name is Cayla Schluter and I'm a realtor with RE/MAX Results and the Locker Home Group. I specialize in acreage transactions all around the Twin Cities area. All right, let's get started. So propane, or liquid petroleum gas, which is different than natural gas. If you lived in the city, you likely were connected to a city natural gas line. If you're living now in the country, it's very common to have your own propane tank. Propane tanks come in all different sizes. For example, we're not talking about this 20-gallon tank for powering a grill, but we're actually going to be focusing on the most common size found on residential properties, which is this 500-gallon size behind me. If you have a larger house, maybe 4,500 square feet or bigger, or you have an extra need such as a pool or a shop, you may have a 1,000-gallon size, but it's more common to have the 500. A normal fuel company will require a minimum number of fills each year, and around 3 is the number my company is their minimum. So you need to right size your tank for the usage on your property. So why do we see propane tanks on acreages? Well, the truth is a technician can deliver propane pretty much anywhere. So it's a very ideal choice for people that live in remote areas or in neighborhoods that don't have a natural gas pipeline yet installed by the city. Not all acreages will have a propane tank though. For example, in this neighborhood, it's made up of 10 to 20 acre residential properties, and almost all of them are actually connected to the city gas line. This property, not the case. They chose not to purchase the pipeline that connected their house at the time of install, so we still have a propane tank. All right, if you're wondering whether or not your acreage does have a propane tank, let's start with looking at the MLS listing. Step 2, read the property seller's disclosures. In the 2020 forms, they do have a spot specifically for propane tanks, noting whether they're rented or owned. That is on page 4 in section C under the mechanicals, appliances, and other property attributes. What's important to know about a propane tank? Well, first of all, you likely will not actually own it. Often, these tanks are rented from the propane company, and that company has the responsibility of maintaining the tank in good working condition. If you do rent it, the company that owns the tank is the only company that can fill the tank. So you're not allowed to shop around for the best fuel prices, but the trade-off is you don't really have the responsibility of maintaining that tank. Again, how do you know if it's rented or owned? Look at the seller's disclosures, as I noted previously. The other way to know if your tank is owned or rented is check the tank itself for stickers, labels, logos. There's going to be some kind of marking on your tank that says, "We own this tank, call us to fill." It's very obvious, so check under the hood or check anywhere around on the tank itself. All right, what's different about closing with a property and a propane tank? Well, propane is actually considered personal property, and the buyer will owe the seller's money for the percentage of the remaining propane in the tank at the time of sale. The cost is based on the rate of the last fill by the seller. In fact, this proration is explained in detail on the standard Minnesota purchase agreement under the proration section, which is towards the end of the purchase agreement, and it is a step that is sometimes overlooked if a realtor is unfamiliar with selling acreages. So quick seller's tip, if you are thinking about selling in the next 3 to 6 months, make sure you keep a copy of your receipt. This will save you time and headaches when you're selling your property. Now, how often should you expect to fill it? Well, 2 to 3 times a year is pretty common. depending on how cold the winter is. Now, I am filming right now in December in Minnesota, which normally we have a ton of snow on the ground. This year we don't. So this year you might feel it a little bit less. Okay though, the most important thing to watch for is the fuel gauge on top right here, and give your propane company a call when it starts to get low. My company asks that we set up a refill between 20 and 30%. The driver will usually arrive about 2 to 3 days after I call, and he will fill it up to 80% capacity, which allows for expansion of the propane. Alternatively, you can get set up on an automatic fill plan if your company offers this service, which you may find much more convenient. Okay, so what is it going to cost you to fill it? Well, the cost of filling your tank will vary depending on the market rate of propane. Kind of similar to filling gas in your car. It just depends. However, I want to give you a point so that you can kind of get an idea. So early December of 2020, the propane tank fuel price was $1.50 a gallon. I put in 300 gallons, so the cost to fill this tank was about $450. Because remember, we're not going to put a full 500 gallons in there because we need to have room for expansion. Also, I will not fill it at %0, so there will be about 100 gallons, 150 gallons in there at the time of fill. So that brings us up to about the 80% mark. Now, I have paid as low as $300 for a fill and as much as $600 a fill. So it's going to vary, but hopefully that will help you with your budgeting for future expenses. Quick tip. Check with your provider to see if they have any discounts for pre-buying in the summer or paying at the time of service. This can save you a few bucks. Another warning, do not let your tanks go to 0% or anything below 20%, quite frankly. This will cost you extra money. This is a big problem, and the fuel companies will charge you extra, usually to do a same-day fill. So the other thing they're going to probably charge you for is to run a pressure test and restart all the appliances and do a safety check because you let your fuel drop too low. Had that problem when I first moved in. I didn't realize quite how it worked, but won't do that again. For the most part though, having a propane tank is fairly straightforward, but do keep in mind when you are updating appliances, appliances are going to run on electricity, propane, or natural gas. If you are used to city life, like most people, you really need to remember to tell your plumber that your appliances run on propane, not natural gas. Some appliances do have a converter kit option, but water heaters are not one of those appliances, and I guarantee you it'll save a lot of stress if you remember to tell this small little detail up front. All right, big shout out to River Country Cooperative, who helped answer all my questions in preparation for this video. Please reach out if you have any questions or if I can help you with any of your acreage relating problems. Happy to help. Information below in the description. Thanks again for listening.